What's up, Facebook, YouTube, thinkvaughn.com, all my friends that are Android app developers. I did promise you that I would put out more tutorials on Android app development. So this particular Android app development is being brought to you by Bud Light. Not because they pay me as a sponsor, but because I love drinking it. And without this Bud Light right here, I would not be up at 12 o'clock at night making Android tutorials. If you do not know how to develop Android apps, definitely do not recommend that you do it while drinking. But I know pretty well a lot about Android app developing. I've been doing it now as a professional for some time now. Actually have clients that work with me to develop their apps, and that's what I've been doing most of the night. Most of the night tonight I've been making some changes for one of my clients' Android apps, and we could probably go look at it real quick. Alright, here we go. For this app right here, the Brooklyn Pizza Company, one of my clients, I met with them tonight, had dinner at the restaurant. Their pizza is amazing. It is the best pizza, definitely in Seymour, maybe not in the world, but it is the best pizza that I've ever ate. So especially their breadsticks are the best breadsticks that I've ever had in my life. Should definitely go check them out. They're located in Seymour, Indiana. If you want to get easy directions to their location, you can easily download this app on your Android phone, and you can just hit the map function in the app and it will take you right to the restaurant. You can hit the call button. It will just call their restaurant where you can place an order. But that's what I've been working on. I am taking a break from doing that, and we are switching to another different type of Android app development. This is just going to be some basic tutorials, some basic information for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into an app I've already got set up, and this app is what we use to make all our tutorials. This is the Think Vaughn experience. So hopefully to be able to complete this tutorial, you've already got Eclipse downloaded in your machine. I have Eclipse Indigo downloaded in my machine, and you've already installed all the Android SDKs which allow you to develop for Android. So first thing we're going to do, if you're new to app development, we're going to look at our package, the Think Vaughn experiment. You can see we have the source file, the gen file, Android 2.1, which is the target operating system that we're making it for, because this is basic. All Android phones pretty much now today that people are using are going to have at least a 2.1. Really now, according to statistics, they all have the 2.3. But just so we don't miss anybody, just in case, we're going to make it 2.1 compatible. We're going to have our Android dependencies, assets, our bin file, resource file. Then we have our Android manifest, and we have these other text files in this property file. Really what we need to concern ourselves as developers, we need to concern ourselves with our source folder. In our source we actually have our package. So here's our package, and right now we have two files in there. We have the Think Vaughn experience activity, that's the main activity, it's a Java file. We also need to concern ourselves with our resources folder. In our resources we see all these drawable folders. These drawable folders are going to contain our images. For example, our icon launcher, the icon that you're actually going to see on your phone. And we got an Android phone right here, so we can just look. We got all these applications right here on our phone. Each one of these applications has their own little icon. So these particular applications, the icon that you see on your phone, you know, this application, you see this icon, it's the default icon. You set it with this right here. We also need to look at our layout, and we need to look at our values. Okay, so things we're going to bring up. We're going to bring up the main Java page, which actually corresponds with this main XAML page, this XML page. If you're not familiar with XML, it's a lot like HTML. This is the main layout of our first page, our app. You can see the actual XML code that we have right here, and you can see tags. We have a linear layout tag, have a relative layout tag, image tag, text view tag, button tag, another text view tag, relative layout closing tag, linear layout closing tag. It's a lot like XML. We set attributes inside here. So like I said, that's a lot like XML. We also need to really concern ourselves with our Android manifest XML. If you don't know what you're doing with your manifest, it can actually cause you problems in the long run. For example, to show you a good experience of that, I have, here we go, on this main layout, this, like I said, in your resources, this is where you have your XML pages, your layout pages. This actually allows you to go in and use a GUI, a graphical user interface, to actually, you know, develop your design, what I can do here is I can just go ahead and drag one of these things, and since I have a relative layout, I can drag anywhere I want, but I don't want to do anything. As you can see, I've got a button right here, the think button. If I look at my code, somewhere right here, I've got a button. It's got an ID of think, and it's got the text of think, which causes it to say text. So over here in this Java file, which is basically the logic engine that runs my app, you can see on create, which is basically like the constructor. On create, I do super on create, and I do set content view. Set content view to r.layout.main. .main is going to be this main XAML, and it's R because it's in this generated. If you look, we have a r.java, and we have this r.java is basically just a bunch of memory addresses in hex. So 0x denotes hex. So this basically is the memory addresses on our phone. If we look, we have layout and we have main, and it gives us a memory address here. So basically what's going on in this Java file is we're setting that to r.layout.main, which means that we want, whenever it's created, we want this main file, we want this layout actually to display. Then I have a button, and that button is called think, and I do just kind of like I would do in JavaScript for HTML. I find view by ID, and I want to find the think ID, because if you remember over here in this main.xaml, this button think, I have an ID and it's called think. So I find that ID by think, then I set an on-click listener to find out what am I going to do when I actually click that button. When I click that button, I want to start a new intent, and I got to tell it which activity is going to start that intent. Well, it's the current activity that I'm on, so it's the think Vaughn experience activity.this, because it's this activity, and I need to tell it which activity I'm going to launch. I'm going to launch think activity.class. If we look, we have think activity.java here. So this is the activity, this think activity is the activity I'm actually going to launch. And then I tell it to start activity, which is the think intent. So the think intent activity is a new activity that is going to launch the think activity.class, which, like I said, is this activity over here. And then I start activity think intent. Well, in this activity, all I have is I have basically this constructor, the onCreate, and on create, all I do is I set the layout to r.layout.think. If we look back to R, I have another layout, and it is called think. So I can look over here. I've got the think XML, and you can see all I've got in think XML is a linear layout, and I've got a button. So if I look at my graphical layout, this is all I have. Well, I've been getting several errors, and the reason I was getting errors is because if I look at my manifest, I did not actually declare this activity. I just now went in and declared this activity. So what would happen is I would actually load up like this. I would load up my application. I would go ahead and hit the button to cause it to go to this new page, which it does now, and every time it would kill my application, it would force it to close, and the reason why is because it wanted to start an activity that was not registered in the manifest. So like I said, the manifest in Android is really, really important, and we need to pay attention to it. So now that we got that all taken care of, we are going to actually go ahead and get into some code. So we don't need this main anymore. We're going to need the manifest. We don't really want this Java, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to take this button out of here for now, and what we're going to do is we're going to add a layout. We're going to add a relative layout. A relative layout lets us add content anywhere that we want. We're going to make it, hey, that was not cool. We're going to get rid of it, and we're going to go back to graphical layout. Relative layout is going to let us add things anywhere we want to. So we're going to go ahead and make it pretty much the whole length of here, and we're also going to add an image. So if we look, we're going to draw our image. We're going to draw our image right here. This image is going to be our logo. Okay. Now we got a logo. Alright, so now what we need to do is we need to add some buttons. First button we're going to add right here. And this button, we're going to go to our XML. we're going to change the name of it. We're going to change it to call. And down here in the text, we're going to change it to call me. Alright, so if we look at our graphical layout, we got a button that says call me. Okay, so we're going to go to thinkactivity.java, because thinkactivity.java is where we set the think layout. This layout right here gets set in this Java activity, so we're going to be working with it. So in here, what we're going to do, we're going to look over here, and I've got a button right here. I'm going to copy and paste all of this code right here. And we're going to explain it whenever we put it in here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set a comment, and it's the action for call me button. So first thing, I've got a final button. It's called think. I'm going to change it to call, and it's called button. Find button by ID, rid.think. We're going to change it to call. The reason we're changing it to call is because remember in our XML, we just called this button ID call. Alright? So then we have think set on click listener. That needs to be called. Now we have think Vonix this, and what we basically need to do is think Von. Actually, this is just going to be called think activity, because that is the current activity that win. Now we need to see if we can do that. Oh, good. So it does work. Alright, so what we need to do is we need to go and do what I love to do, which is copy and paste from a different project. Here's a project I was working on before doing this. Let's see. So, here we go. Now, this is a Brooklyn Pizza Company. They have a button in there where you click the button and it goes ahead and directly calls their pizza shop. So we're going to borrow that code and we're going to change it. We have intent. Call intent equals new intent. Intent.action underscore call. This means it's going to be an intent we're going to actually use to call a phone number. So call intent.setData URI.parse. Here's the telephone number. We need to change it to our number, 812-820-4456. So we're going to start activity call intent. So if you see what we got, we have a new intent. We intend to do something when this button's clicked. What do we intend to do? Well, it's a new intent, and that intent is going to be an action call. We're going to actually call a phone number. What phone number are we going to call? Well, our intent's called call intent, so we're going to call intent.setData, and what that's going to do, that's going to set the phone number for our action call. We could use setData on any intent, but it could be that we're setting data for a different intent that's not going to be calling. But this particular intent is actually going to call somebody, so we're going to use this intent to call. Then we're going to start our activity. Which activity are we going to start? Well, we're going to start our call intent activity, because that's the activity we want to start. So, now that we have that done, what do we need to do? Is it going to work? No, not quite yet, because we need to go to our manifest, and we need to go back, and I'm going to go back and borrow some code again, because I know inside this other project, inside their manifest, we have uses this permission. So if we want our app to be able to make a phone call, we have to tell our app that it's going to make a phone call. We have to let Google know that. How do we let Google know that? We let Google know that in the manifest. So in our manifest file, we have a uses SDK, Android, minimum SDK version is 7. That's what we get from using the 2.1. We're going to add this code in. Uses permission. Android name, that's the attribute. This is, if you can't tell how similar this is to HTML, this is the tag name. Here's an attribute for the tag. So, Android colon name, that's the attribute tag, or that's the attribute for users permission tag. We're going to set that equal to android.permission.call_phone. This tells the app that we need to, inside this application, we're actually going to need to make a phone call inside this application. Sponsor time. So, now that we have that all taken care of, we're going to go ahead and run this. If you notice that this green button right here, this green button is the button that makes everything go. So that's the compile button. It sends everything to your phone. So if we look right here on our Android phone, I've got my Android layout. Got this button that takes you to a new page, and now all I got on there is I've got this call me button, which I can press, and when I press it, it starts calling my phone number automatically. Well, right now it's asking me my password because it's called my voicemail because I'm calling my own phone number. So, as you can see, easily, we've added something to our app. Now, we're going to go ahead and do something else to our app because this tutorial is about Android app development, so you should assume that we're going to do a lot of code in here. We're going to go back to thinkactivity.java. Actually, we're going to go to think.xml. Okay, we have this image view. We're going to do Android clickable equals true, and we're also going to do an on click. Android on click equals logo click. Okay, so now if we go here, we can do something, which this ends on create. This ends our class. So we're going to add another thing in here, which is public void logo click. We need to pass a view v in here, and here we go. So on logo click, we want to do something else, which is borrow from here. We look, we have think bond click here, so we're going to borrow this code here. That's how we get to develop so fast. We keep borrowing code. You don't have all this code to borrow, so you're just going to look and see what the code says, and you're going to have to type it. But we're going to explain the code. We're not going to just have you copy and pasting code and you don't know what it means. We're going to actually explain it to you and tell you what it means. So let's take a look at it. Basically what's going to happen is I have an image, it's my logo. I want that if the user actually touches my logo, if they put their finger on my logo, it's going to take them to my web page. So they know all about me. They know all about John Vaughn, who developed the app. Because sometimes what I do when I work for clients, sometimes my clients don't have, you know, anywhere from $3,000 to $6,000 to get their app developed. That's what it costs when you go to a professional company. I do most of my app development typically for a lower charge than that, depending on the app. But I offer my clients a discount. If you don't have as much money as I'm requesting to develop your app based on consulting and what your needs are for your particular app, if you can't come up with all the money that I estimate it's going to cost you, I will offer you a discount if you allow me to put my logo in your app. That just basically says powered by John Vaughn, thinkvaughn.com. Then that way I can give you a discount to work with your company, so you still have a professional app developed for your small business or for your large business, whatever type of business you have. But since you didn't have all the money, I also get a pretty good benefit as well. As far as all your users that download your app, because they're your business clients, they also get to see my logo every time they look at your app. And if they click on my logo, I want it to do something. I want it to take them to my website and give a little bit of information about me. So that's what we're doing here. We just added in our XML, we have this image view. We made this image view clickable. So if you click on it, then something's actually going to happen. An event's going to fire off. And I set an on click, which tells it what are you actually going to do whenever it gets clicked. Well, what it's actually going to do whenever it gets clicked is it's going to find the logo click method and it's going to run it. So I've added the logo click right here. We have to pass it view v. So I have a new intent. It is a browser intent. This browser intent is a new intent. It takes intent action view necessary as a parameter. So that is the string action we can look. It tells us. And it also needs a URI. Okay? So we give it URI.parse, and I give it my website. So with intent, browser intent equals new intent. Give it the intent that's actually doing it. It's intent action view because it needs that string. It needs that it needs that intent, and it also needs a URI. So I give it URI.parse and my website, http://www.thinkvaughn.com, and then I start the intent. So if you look Oh, if you look, I've got my logo right here, and I can click it all day long, and it just doesn't do anything. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hit the magic green button, which is going to recompile everything, send a new version, the updated version, back to my phone. So you'll see my app's going to quit out, and it's going to start back up. Once this happens, now my button is clickable. When I click on my logo, it's going to actually take me straight to my website now. So now the user, whenever they're on my app and they click my logo, it's going to take them straight to my web page. Alright, let's do some more coding. Let's go back to our XML, and let's add another button to our XML. This button, we're going to change the name of it to text. Actually, let's just do SMS. And we're going to change this to text me. And let's see. We're going to go back to think activity. We're going to do, and if you notice, I put all these buttons inside the on create. If they're not in the on create, then we're going to have a little bit of problem. So this is action for text me button. So I'm going to call this button SMS. I'm going to change the ID to SMS because that's what we called the ID in think.xml. We called that button SMS. So we're going to change that to SMS. We're also going to change this to SMS. Now, I'm going to do something that I like to do. I'm going to go in and I'm going to steal me some code. Here we go. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to find my button. Make sure I got everything that I need. Yep. Okay. So let's take a look at what's going on. Have string phone number. I'm going to change this to my phone number. 812-820-4456. I'm going to change Hey John Vaughn. Enter your message. Okay. So now I have a phone number and I have a message. Now if you take a look what I have going on, I have intent SMS equals new intent. Why? Because I'm going to start a new intent based on this. I have the same intent, intent.action underscore view, which tells me what intent is actually going on. It takes the string the action and it takes the string URI. So I'm doing URI.parse SMS plus phone number. So this SMS colon plus the phone number from here. Okay? Then I'm going to do SMS.putExtra, which was kind of like what I used before when I do callintent.setData. I have the intent called callintent and I'm using the message called setData. Well, I'm doing kind of the same thing here. I'm doing SMS.putExtra. The name of my intent is SMS. I'm putting extra and I'm putting in the SMS body, which is message, which I've declared up here. Message. Hey John Vaughn. Enter your message. And then I'm going to start intent. SMS. Now the other thing that I need to do in order for this to work is I need to go back to my manifest and I need to add this permission. I need to add the permission that it uses Android permission .send underscore SMS. So I'm going to copy that from my manifest and I'm going to put it in this manifest because this application is also going to use that. So now I can hit go and we can look at the app get installed on our phone. Now if we look at our app, we got our main page here. Now we've got two buttons on our page here. Second button says text me. I can do text me. And it automatically pops up the text message, which has my number up here at the top and it has the message that I put in here. And I can hit send, and it sends the message. So now our application can text us, and it can text us, it can call us, and it links to our web page. Also, it starts another intent. Now if you notice, but whenever I hit this button, that sends a whole new layout page. So as you can see, this layout page is completely black. Now what if I want to add a picture there? Well, easy. I can come up here, I can go to this linear layout, and I can do Android.background, which is the same thing that I have actually over here. And since I like to copy and paste, we're going to do some more copy and pasting. If I look at my main.xml, I have the same thing. I have Android.background equals @drawable, lets it know that it's a folder. If I do @string, it's going to do right here. So @drawable, and I'm going to do brain. Actually, @drawable has to do with this R file. If I look at this R file right here, I've got this drawable. See, if I look at my R file, I've got public final class drawable. Then inside here I got brain, and it gives me the memory address. So basically that's what's happening right here. I'm telling it @drawable, at that drawable class, I want to find brain. So now I'm going to come back to think.xml. I'm going to add that right there. So you can see that once a very boring black screen is about to get changed to a not so boring screen like my main screen. So we can see everything is restarting now. Got my main screen here. Now when I go to my next screen, I got a cool little background behind it as well. So now if I want to do, we're going to add a bunch more stuff here, so I'm going to move my call me button over here, and I'm going to move my text me button over here. I'm going to make sure that those went through, and I'm going to make sure it didn't really mess up my application, because sometimes it will when they overlay on top of each other, so hopefully it didn't. Nope, that works fine still. That works fine still. Okay, so I got my buttons right next to each other now. Alright, now this is pretty much almost 30-minute. This is pretty much almost a 30-minute app development tutorial. What have we learned how to do? Well, we've learned the basic layout of our Android apps. We know where everything's at in our Android app. We know that our logic is in the source file. It's our Java files. We know that the gen file is something we shouldn't mess with because it's all memory addresses and it's all automatically updated whenever you change something. We know that we also really need to care about our resources file, the RES folder. It contains all our drawable images. It also contains our layout files, and it also contains this thing, the string XML, which we didn't really look at because we're not really using it right now. Other than it says think on experience, and we should add a little space right there. And we've also learned that our Android manifest file, if we don't keep it current and we don't keep it updated, it's really going to mess with us. Time for a moment from our sponsors. So, we're going to make a couple more tutorials to show you how to do more things. We've added buttons into our layout. We've learned how to actually navigate the layout and the graphical side of our application. We've added some buttons, but not only did we add buttons, we gave those buttons action. Those actions were we made one button actually launch a call task. We made another button launch a text messaging task. And we added an image, and we actually made that image clickable, where whenever you click on that image or touch that image, it launches a web browser with my web page in it. So, we've done a lot for this Android app. been 30 minutes. You go ahead and take a break. I'm going to go ahead and take a break, talk to our sponsors a little bit, and we will come back and we will add even more and more things to our Android application. Keep watching my channel. You'll keep learning how to develop Android apps. Like I said, I've been doing this for a while. I'm pretty good at Android applications. If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask me, or be my friend on Facebook, facebook.com/king.john.vaughn. Thanks. Happy coding, and I'll talk at y'all later.